Hello, ladies, and welcome. I pray that you guys are doing well and that you are super ready for today because we have a guest, a very special guest. And if you've been listening to the podcast and tuning in, you know that I have talked about bringing on not only amazing women, but also military women that have gone beyond their military career, beyond their military lifestyle. And today we have Marilyn West with us. And I'm pretty sure you're going to love her as much as I do because this woman, when I tell you, she is not only an amazing leader, she's an amazing businesswoman, mother, wife, and also a woman of faith. So I am just super excited that you guys are here tuning in. And if you are new, I want to welcome you and just say thank you for tuning in. And possibly you even stumbled upon this podcast today, but I want to personally welcome you. And I hope that you're ready because you are going to learn so much not only from what Marilyn has to share, the tools that she has, but really just from her story. And when I tell you this woman is just, God sent, I actually did not know her. And I found her through a mutual friend that we have, and I found her page on Instagram, and I genuinely connected with her just by her page because she is just so welcoming. She invites you into her space, and it just makes you feel like you're a part of her community already, even by just looking at her profile. So if you're on Instagram or on Facebook, you will know and you'll find everything in the show notes for today, how to get in touch with her, how to connect with her. But I promise you that these 30 minutes or less that we spend with you, you're definitely going to get something out of it. So I hope that you stay to the very end, and I pray that this episode resonates with you. And with that, I will go ahead and kind of give you who Marilyn West is. I actually request like a little bio from all my guests that are going to interview here on the podcast. And this is what Marilyn has to say. She is a business manager for entrepreneurs specializing in building a profitable business without social media burnout through organic marketing strategies. Marilyn is a combat veteran that retired with 20 years as a human resources chief, developing and streamlining procedures to serve American greatest. Marilyn traded her military career as a warrant officer to bring accountability, organization, and streamline CEOs, processes, and procedures to run effective businesses without being overwhelmed and to regain their excitement to serve. She is a she has over 9 years of experience as an entrepreneur, and her entrepreneurial journey began as a photographer, where she realized in branding sessions for small businesses. She is very motivated and skilled in startup businesses and scaling. She is dedicated to simplifying entrepreneurial businesses and a dedicated professional with a master's degree focused in business administration for American Intercontinental University. Marilyn served more than 20 years in the United States Army, is a true professional, certified in public speaking, business management, and organizational leadership. Ladies, welcome Marilyn West.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so excited to be here with you today and your community.
Thank you. I'm just so happy to be that you're here. And honestly, like at the very beginning, when you said, building a profitable business without social media burnout and through organic marketing strategies, again, I love everything that you do. And, before we get into where you are at now, right, I always want to give, my listeners, kind of where you came from, as well as, highlighting, Black History Month, right? I know you and I talked about this prior to the interview, and being able to celebrate and honor Black women, especially, Black women in the military, right? And, all the things that you've done, all the challenges that you had to go through as well. I kind of want to go back, to kind of your early story of, very why you joined the military, kind of how you got into the military and what got you into, the investing part and everything else that you've kind of, gone through.
Honestly, when I joined the military, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. I wanted to serve, I wanted to be a part of something greater than me. And I knew school wasn't for me right away. And I needed the discipline. I started off in the reserve, and I thought by joining the military, it would have afforded me the opportunity to have the funds for school. So when I joined, I just was super excited. I didn't really know what I was getting into with basic training. I remember calling my mom, crying, asking her to come pick me up. And when I realized when she couldn't come pick me up, I was like, okay, I just have to tough this out And that's when I realized, for being in the reserve, that I wanted to go active duty because I truly felt in love with the community. It felt like family. I was used to
Mm.
being scream at, so I felt like I was at home. So, my journey into the military was really the unknown. And I said I would get out when I stopped having fun. And that's when I made my exit.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, I love how you said, you went in scared and or at least motivated, right? And then when you were there, you were scared and you're like, "Mom, where are you, parents?" And which I know your parents were probably would have been like, you chose that career, so I'm gonna need you to stay there." Just kind of like, how you were saying I was always, the whole yelling part, I think, that's something that most of our parents did, just because, again, in my mind, I'm thinking they didn't know how to manage their emotions. They didn't really talk about emotions, right? Like that's something that, we grew up, especially, in the Black community. I know that's something that, my husband is African American. I think, that he's Black. And it's something that we talk about now, right? How we want to raise our kids based on, how we were raised, the huge difference that came with that. So, I'm glad that you touched on that. And so now you said another important thing here. You wanted to leave the military when you stopped having fun, right? And I think that right there, maybe you didn't know this, but I'm sure in the back of your mind you kind of did that because you knew that there was a point in time that we're going to stop having fun, right? So now what am I going to do when I get out, right? Because I think that most of us, especially when we're young, we think that what we have now is just going to last forever, but that's not the truth, right? So for all of our young listeners tuning in, our young soldiers, paratroopers, officers, NCOs, what can you share with them, based on your story that helped you kind of plan when you were, I think, a PFC is what I think you said you were when you started actually getting into the stock market or investing?
Absolutely. So I had some amazing leaders in my military career, and I had the ones that wasn't as smart when it came to the TSP, but they were smart enough to tell me to start the TSP.
Mm.
And I truly believe, and I'm so grateful to this day to have crossed paths with those leaders because they had the understanding of knowing like one day you're going to get out and you need to be prepared. And going back to the statement where I said about stop having fun, I realized that when I was boarding the plane to Afghanistan for my last deployment, it was easy when it was just my husband and I. I made E7 in 7 years. I dropped my warrant packet before 10 years to become a warrant officer. So those things was easy as
Mhm.
just a married couple. But I knew it was going to come a time in my career where the red flags will come on and I'll be like, well, I don't think this is fun anymore because now I have a family. So how do you balance it all?
Ooh, I
So
love
I
that. Yeah.
always was the one that was forward thinking about that next rank. So as I was boarding that plane to Afghanistan and leaving behind my 1 year old and my 3 year old, I was like, Marilyn, you have to start preparing for the future. And I realized I had to get aggressive with how I was investing. So instead of taking that time and kind of like being away from my family, I took that time to see how I could speed up my financial freedom to financial independency. And that's what I did. I was playing with compound calculators every day and see how much money I would need if I hit 20 years or 22 years or whatever I decided, just to make sure that I was prepared for that exit strategy. And I had already had a photography business before I went to Afghanistan. So I always had that entrepreneur spirit, and I knew it was something that I wanted to do on the other side. So when it came to taking advantage of the programs that the military had set up, it was easy for me to know that I was going to go that entrepreneur route when I was going through Soldier for Life. So
Yeah. And, that's one of the things that you said too. And again, I'm pretty sure a lot of women listening, tuning in now will resonate with, leaving your children behind for training because you can, describe kind of how you felt as well. But I didn't, get the chance to deploy, but I did have to leave my daughter at a very young age, and even going through training for a month to JRTC, or other training events that I had to attend that was over 2 weeks for the most part. You kind of feel this tug. You kind of feel like you're going to serve, right? You're doing your training because you love it. When you're in it, you're all in 100%. And it's like this switch that we get, when we're in it. But that other part of us, like for me, it was more of the guilt, and also the like the FOMO, right? Like, what am I'm missing out on, what she's doing, what he's doing, what my husband's going to be there, and the beautiful thing too is that, at least for me, I had him and my in-laws to take care of them. So for you, like, what was that like? I'm pretty sure this is one of the challenges and obstacles that you had to kind of endure while you were out.
So, as a leader, I can tell you that FOMO would hit you on both sides. It would hit you because you're training with your soldiers, getting them prepared to deploy, and it's also hitting you from your family.
Yeah.
You're so it's so hard when you talk about that FOMO because at the end of the day, you want to be there for your team and you also want to be there for your family. But
Yes.
when you have a strong team that you can look at and say, "Hey, I'm having a day that I'm down," and you walk over to that defect together and they cheer you all up, and when you go back to your room and you connect with your family, it makes it a little bit better.
Mm,
So when I think about
that's
that
good.
FOMO too, I think about it on both sides because I couldn't imagine staying in the rear as well
Mhm.
and seeing my team go forward. So I guess, you know, being in the military is very challenging. And I would tell you, when you stop having fun because that FOMO will definitely start to take control of your life. And then you have to understand, like, which is a healthy balance for me.
Right.
And I think when I got to that point of trying to manage it all, trying to get closer to God, to my family, to my friends, rebuilding those relationships that, I couldn't attend so many activities in the past, it makes a big difference. Like, how do you balance it all? So
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I kind of talk about here, right? That's what this podcast is all about, being able to create this balance that is only yours, right? Because there's no way that we can find this, life circle of balance of 50-50, or 25-25-25, but we can create that within our personal, you know journey that we're in, right? So everyone in the military has a different experience, and I think that we forget that sometimes. And this is what I mean, especially if you're active duty right now listening, you've had tougher assignments than maybe the one that you're in now, right? Like, you could be at Fort Bragg and be in the soft community, or you could be at Bragg and be in 82nd, one of the units that's possibly always on standby to deploy. So there's always going to be a different moment in your lives, right? So I love how you described earlier, when you were just married or when you were a young soldier, everything else was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm all in, and I'm just going to get it done, and I'm just looking at the next thing. But when family comes into play, and I think that that's where a lot of us women kind of struggle, not only in the military, I think we're talking all women in general here, but specifically military women, because one, that's what this podcast is about, and two, and also the military spouses, I want to say, because we have this commitment that we have made, but we chose that, right? It was this commitment that we made ahead of time. And now I think that when family comes into the picture, and your desires of starting a business or starting this investment and just this personal growth that we want, not to mention, your relationship with God, right? Like, where do we want to be, 2-3 years from now? And how can God help us now? So, putting all of that, not to mention, other things that come up with life, family members and everything of that sort, how can we be able to still prioritize what we truly want, what we want to be, how do we want to be involved? So, Marilyn, one of the questions that I have here for you, because I think it's very important for us to learn from you because I've met you, I want to say almost 3 years ago. And I've seen you when you were in the military, active duty, on when you were with a unit that was pretty much, on a go, go, go. Um, and then, kind of like taking a break. And also, I know that you've had, loss recently as well. And then you're transitioning, right? Not to mention, you have this business. So, what can you teach us or give us of how you manage everything from your standpoint, from where you've been and where you're going as well?
I would say grace. That's the first thing. You have to give yourself grace and you have to
Mm,
understand like you have to have a good time management skill, just like being in the military.
yeah.
I manage everything to the T. And what I mean about that, I like to schedule everything out. Like my husband was just laughing at me a couple of days ago. He was like, "So what time is the party?" And I'm like, "You talking about a party that's 2 weeks away?" He was like, "I know you know what time it is." Because I manage everything to the
Yeah.
T and I schedule everything out. And I truly believe you are in control of your time. Probably not so while you're in the military, but when you have a business, it's so important to manage everything when it comes to your time and understanding what's priority and what can wait. I always start with about 3 tasks a week and what I want to accomplish. And I always take time to schedule everything out for at least 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm not at a point where I'm rushing trying to complete a task. So those same skills that you had in the military, bring them over into your business, into your exit strategy out of the military, because time is so precious and you want to make sure
Mhm.
that you are utilizing that to its fullest potential.
Right. Yeah, and I think you would agree with me here, that I think you said it before, or maybe you and I have been talking and we said this before, a lot of people say time is money, right? A lot of people are like, well, when I ask them, and this is coming from some of the clients and consults that I've had, what do you value the most? And they're like, my family, my health, my time. And then money's at the very end, right? But when we look at everything, it's like, no, you're only valuing money because that's the only thing you're budgeting for. You're not budgeting your time. You're not allocating time to spend with your family. So, I love that you said that, the very beginning with grace. It's something that is hard for us to do. I mean, I may be only speaking for me, but when I tell you that we get into this perfectionism sometimes, at least for me, I wanted everything to be done, flawlessly in everything that I did in the military. And then I also wanted that for my family. But I'll be honest, like I didn't really schedule everything like that when I was still in because I'm like, you know what, I may not even get to it because something's gonna come up, right? Like I kind of filled ahead of time when it came to the time that I possibly did have. I didn't plan for it because I was so kind of just focused on, I'm so tired and I'm just ready to, get this task done and this mission done before I move on to the next thing, which was my personal life. So I love that you said that, and, being focused with 3 tasks a week. I think that that is, key, right? Like, what are the 3 top things that you are going to get done? And it could be, just your career, it could be your military, I mean, your personal life, it could be your business if you're starting a business, because there will always be an excuse that we make in our minds that we don't have the time, right? Or we can't seem to focus on our business or our, education, whatever it may be for you, right? You have to create that, like you said earlier, you have to create that time because it's there, it's given to us. Now, how do we, steward it and be able to make the most out of it? So thank you, Marilyn, for sharing that. I think that, ladies, again, I hope you're taking notes. I hope you have made yourself comfortable because Marilyn, I have, she's drinking water. I'm drinking coffee and water. I'm trying to, I'm trying to be good over here too, Marilyn, like you. But seriously, like take these notes down. And if you have to listen to this podcast again, I highly recommend that you do, because when I tell you that we need to be reminded of this again, grace seems so easy. We're like, yeah, we can do that, but it's hard for us to do, because we have to actually be okay with where we're at and where we're possibly going or not going, and it's okay. And that's something that I think that we could all use some work on. And then identifying 3 tasks that you need to do. I mean, it's Monday when this episode actually publishes. It's Monday, so kind of get your ducks in a row, right? I mean, I think Marilyn, you and I start on Sunday, but if you do it Monday morning, right? If you give yourself 10 minutes to just ask yourself, okay, what do I need to get done this week that is serious business? There's nothing that I can't drop the ball on these 3 things. What would that be? So yeah, and so Marilyn, can you share with us now something that resonated with you with the coaching industry, because you're a coach? Tell us a little bit more about that for you.
So it's so interesting that I pivot my business into a coaching business because I love mentoring. I love that leadership. I love seeing entrepreneurs pretty much like soldiers, right? When you get them as a private and you see them start moving up through the ranks. I like that as well when it comes to entrepreneurship, because over the years, what I noticed was a lot of people creating quick wins in the industry, and they wasn't sustainable for a lot of businesses. They came up with a lot of catchphrase, 6 figures in 3 months, and things
Hmm.
like that. And if you truly believe you're going to make 6 figures in 3 months, I'm here to tell you, unless you have a strong pipeline, that's not going to happen with lead generation. And I'm coming to the coaching industry with a more realistic approach, where I'm teaching my clients to be in it for the long win. Because at the end of the day, you have to get your credibility up with what you do and how you do it and what your products you serve. And then you got to know how to connect with people. And not only that, you got to constantly be bringing in new leads. So with the coaching industry, I think I am going to ruffle a few feathers over the next couple of weeks, because I'm getting back to the basics when it comes to how do you build those relationships and talking
Right.
about leadership in the entrepreneur space, because I see it's a big lack there, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs scaling with teams, and something that we're so good at in the military, talking about SOPs, they don't get it on that side. Before you hire your first employee or VA or social media manager, do you even have SOPs in place to show
Right.
them exactly what to do? So I'm coming in with myself, my military experience, talking about SOPs and everything else, because sometimes you have to look at your business from a different set of eyes. And I truly believe that's where coaches can come into place to help you and to actually tell you, hey, this is how you can streamline your business and help your business for the future, because we all want to be in it for the long run.
Right. Yeah, and I love that you talked about that, because again, that's another thing that I love about, your coaching, kind of how you show up not only on social media but also, on different platforms. And hopefully soon, we'll see you more on on podcast and video, right? We'll kind of, just, hint hint y'all. But listen, when Marilyn comes into Instagram or Facebook in her groups, like when I tell you this woman has a lot of not only knowledge and experience, but it's the leadership, right, that you mentioned. And you're completely right. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you ladies listening now, if you're already in the business world, or if you're a coach, or if you're wanting to be a coach, or you're just trying to go into the corporate America, corporate sector, I will say that you will be very disappointed, because what we've learned in the military, it's nowhere else that no one teaches it outside of the military. No one teaches it outside of the military. And when you get to that, corporate sector, or that job, or even starting this business, and hiring your first coach, we don't get taught or led into, the workflows and the standard operating procedures, right? In the corporate sector, it's called like a playbook. They have different things, different sections of kind of like in sports, right? Like we have the offense team and the defense team, and same thing with the business, right? We have our sales, our marketing, our just content creation that we have, right? Different sections of our business and our jobs, but it's not out there. So I love that you are bringing that in because we need that. And this is why, right? And I'm pretty sure, Marilyn, I know that this is, kind of why you're so passionate about this because, again, it's all about going back to your why, right? Like you're in it. Not because you want to be a millionaire, of course, that's always great, but because you want to spend time with your family, you want to have that valuable time with your girls as they're growing up, with your husband. You want to be able to say yes to the things that are valuable to you, spending time with God in the morning, working out whenever you know that is best for you, right? Instead of, struggling and not realizing that your business is unorganized or there isn't a workflow. No, if you were out for a week, you have no idea, no one knows how to step in because you don't have anything in place. And I think that that is key for anyone out there, either if you're still in the military, right? Are you a great leader because you think you're a great leader because people are telling you? Is it because you're OER, you're NCOER? Or is it because it's okay that you're not there and that you've trained and, done the work with your team ahead of time so that when you're not there, because life happens. So, thank you, Marilyn, for, being an example of that and really showing and leading other women, other business owners into, where, the coaching can help them not only get organized, but you help them create those systems, those SOPs, and tell us a little bit more on on that, and also something that you could share with them, as we're closing out this episode.
Yes, I would say it goes back to time management. So when I step into one of my clients' business, I like to start with what are they doing on their day-to-day daily duties when it comes to the tasks they need to accomplish. And that's when I come in and set up their strategies to see what systems and softwares they're actually utilizing. I look at how they're constantly bringing in new leads or getting their products in front of their ideal customers. And so many times, a lot of new entrepreneurs like to jump to paid funnels. But if you really don't know your ideal audience or your target audience, it's going to be hard to actually convert those leads because you really don't know. So I come in from a more strategic background to say, okay, organically, where do we need to start to bring in leads to your company? How many hits are you getting on your website? How long people are actually staying on your website when they come? How are you nurturing your emails? How are you connecting to different people that just stumble across your page? Are you ranking on Google? So when I come
Mm.
in, I am not trying to have my entrepreneurs, especially my newly ones that's in startup, start spending a lot of money in funnels because I really want to get to the bottom of their business to understand like how they're bringing in new leads. And that's when I come in from a strategic standpoint to see, test their websites to see like, okay, let me see how you are ranking with your SEO. Who's your
Mhm.
ideal client? And that's when we kind of like build it up from the bottom. And then we have different touch points where we can see exactly what's working, what's not working, and how we could propel and move their business forward. So I always like to stress to my community, do not overlook organic marketing because that is where you are invested the most and can have the biggest returns for the future. So I created a workbook about search engine optimization. We all know the top three search engines are Google, YouTube, and Pinterest. And it's so
Mhm.
important to make sure that you have backlinks to your website and to make sure that you are constantly optimizing your website so it can work in the way it's supposed to be. So we spend so much time investing into these platforms to set up these websites, but how is it working for your business? And that's where I come in. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're even just thinking about getting out the military, I would say start planning that stuff ahead of time. How are you utilizing LinkedIn? You know, you
Mm.
could get a free membership for LinkedIn. That's organic marketing. You could get a free membership for LinkedIn for 1 year just because you're a veteran. That's something that you need to look into. So it's all about branding yourself and how you want your future to look. I always tell people start your exit strategy 2 years out because you're going to need it. You're definitely going
Hmm.
to need it to start marketing yourself if it's your business, because it's going to take you a while to create that momentum in your business. And if you're thinking about going into the corporate world, start thinking about how you're going to brand yourself on LinkedIn. Wendy is a great example. I mean, every time I go to LinkedIn, I'm looking at her account like, oh my God, Wendy killing it. But, she started when before she got out, right?
Yeah, and like you said, it was that 1 year of the free membership that they give you that really helped me because I was able to connect with them, and not only with other veterans, but also with other people in the corporate sector. Like, hey, what are you doing? Like, can you share a little bit more? And some people will be like, yeah, I'm all for it. Like, ask me more questions. And some people won't. They're going to be like, okay, I really don't have time for you. And it's okay, right? But you're getting out there because it's scary. It's going to be scary. I don't care what rank you are, how long you've been in. It's scary. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to talk about it. But I think that we need to. And that's a whole nother topic for another episode. But um, Marilyn, thank you so much. I mean, not only have you shared a lot of, things that have helped you kind of realize and recognize, what is, valuable and priority to you, of course, when it comes to the relationship with God and your family, but also your desires that you had and goals that you had when you were young and kind of where you're at now. So, ladies, I hope that you reach out to Marilyn. And Marilyn, can you please tell us, where is the best place to find you?
Yes, the best place to find me is over on Instagram. I'm trying to get a little bit more professional, so I'm kind of sneezing my way over to LinkedIn, but Instagram is where you can mainly find me. And also at my website at marilynwest.com, where I actually give away a lot of good tips. And I have a resource guide on
Yes.
there too. So if you're thinking about starting a business, make sure you check out my resource guide. And I would love to have you in my community. I run a Facebook group where I pop in there and I'm always giving gems because I truly believe that when it comes to entrepreneurship, it is a great place to go after you get out of the military because we have so much to offer the world.
Absolutely. And ladies, if you're on Clubhouse too, she's on Clubhouse. I mean, this woman is everywhere. And I love that about her because, again, she spreads and sprinkles a little bit, tips here and there. And by the way, I would literally go to her website right now and go download that SEO checklist because I did that already. Or, I'm a part of her email list, so I got it already. And when I tell you these are little things that you want to start working on, because again, we want to spend more time with our families, right? And we also want to serve the community that we have committed to. How do we do that? We get out there, we get known in a way that is more authentic and a way that it's easier for them to find you. So, Marilyn, thank you so much again. Thank you for all the tools that you've created. And ladies, everything is going to be in the show notes. So, scroll down to the very bottom and you'll see everything about Marilyn. And please feel free to reach out to her. She is very um, authentic and just so inviting. So, I hope that you reach out to her. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope and pray that this episode resonated with you and it helps you not only see what is valuable, but also get you started if business is something that you're looking into. All right. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Bye.